Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Tech Tron's channel, where we're going to tinker and learn. Today, we are going to be rebuilding old computers with modern magic from dust to digital. Um, what it is basically we have a case that I had back in 2007. The motherboard that we're going to be working with in today's video is a Compaq. I forget the model name number. Um, but a little history on the board later as we go forward. Um, I had to add RAM at one point because this is like a piece of hardware that I've cannibalized parts from around the house, and it just sat for years. But it's a good piece of hardware that I ran Windows Server 2002 or something like that, 2003 on it. Yeah, Windows Server 2003. Um, what we're going to do is we're going to take everything out of the case and take it apart. We're going to clean it and disassemble it, and we're going to remove the motherboard, take the cooler and the fan from the clean for further cleaning. Then we're going to reassemble the parts, run some. We're not going to be able to run some live windows or other tools using USB right now, but that's going to be later down the road because this is a fairly lengthy video. So let's proceed on with the important house cleaning effects. Um, okay. So the first things first, the whole idea behind this channel is if I have a project to do, this is the place I'd want to share it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Share this video with a friend and like the video on your way in. It really helps the algorithm, and I appreciate you all for being my subscribers, and thank you so much. Uh, so let's get into it, but before we do it, let's get into the Okay, now look at here. Um, Thank you. Your support is greatly appreciated. I appreciate you all once again. I said that. We're gonna start with the tear down. We're gonna break the computer down and all that. And this is where we start to tear down. So I broke the video into segments, like using Adobe, doing it that way. Basically, I'm starting to disconnect the drives, the CD drives that are in there. Um, so you got to kind of get in there with a screwdriver. Got to make sure you don't strip the screws or nothing like that. And this tool that I have there is actually a magnet. It's like a magnet on a pad. All the screws, we land them on there, and it makes the whole project go so nice. There's no fumbling around for screws or anything like that. Um, so basically, the process is we're going to get every screw loose for the drive, and we're going to take it out. Um, so basically, I'm using like my index finger to keep a hold of the screw to keep it from falling and keep control of things, if you know what I mean. Okay, just making sure. I have a habit of looking over. Like, I don't work the GoPro well, so don't don't get mad at me if you get dizzy. Just it is what it is. I gotta maybe put it on a stand or something like that. It's hard to I can't see what the GoPro's seeing and then do my work at the same time, which is kind of weird. All right, so we're just getting them screws out, and the case is a Antec NSK 440 or 4400, I believe. Yeah, it was an old case that I did on my other channel back in the day. And once again, just for clarification, I used to use it to run server 2003. So basically, I'm just gonna go for that next drive. There's two CD drives in there, so I'm pulling the power on it, and I actually had to struggle a little bit to get the the Molex loose, and there was a Molex extender on there that I had really good time trying to get out. It was tough. Some of the stuff is on there and it's been there a long time, so it kind of gets tight in the socket, and you have to kind of work it out a little bit. Don't force it, but just like wiggle it, make it come loose, kind of like what I'm doing now. And eventually it'll get out. And then we're back to just getting the screws out for that drive. So basically you want to remove these drives without stripping. We're doing a complete strip down of this computer, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what we're in for. And we got quite a ways to go with it. All right, so I'm taking out the screws from one side, be taking out the screws from the other side of the drive. And then once that's done, we just pull the wires from the back and pull it out. Okay, so, and just to clarify, like this, just to get the hardware done took a long time. So I mean, this video could be long. Okay, so we got that drive out, which is great. We repositioned the case back on the side so that we could begin removing various components. First component that I seem to be going for right there is the Radeon 9250. The Radeon 9250, I went crazy and bought a lot of those cards. Those cards were kind of like a medium card back in the day, I guess you could say. I didn't really game on it. I thought it was really good for the office stuff that I do, and some of the video work that I did to involve that card back in the day. So we'll go ahead and pull that card out. Don't force it. You want to just ease it on out. Out it comes. All right. Then we want to start removing some of the cables and things like that. This machine had been used for parts over the years, so to support other machines, and basically I've taken parts out of it in order to support other machines. So some of the things that were missing were a ribbon cable, RAM, and a hard drive. But I try to keep the hard drives secure. And here's the thing, and some of the other things that we're going to be doing on the channel is we're going to be, looking at some of the hard drives, seeing which ones work in my collection and which ones don't. Also seeing which ones we could use to help restore some of these computers and things like that. But this computer is really dirty on the inside. And here's the thing, if you are going to do old computers and you're going to do like restoration, take it completely apart, clean it all out, use the duster, like take the heat sink from the processor, clean it out, clean the old thermal paste off. We're doing all that in this video. But right now, we're pulling the power switch and reset switch wires for the case. Now, it's hard to see because the print on the board is so small. But we're going to pull those cables and wires, I should say, in preparation for removing the motherboard to get access to what we need access to. I believe the board has an Intel Celeron processor on it. So we're going to go for the fan. We're going to remove the screws for the fan. Remove the fan from the heatsink. And what you will see, like like some of the dust is caked onto the fan, so it requires a brush to get it off a little bit. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just take all the screws out one by one. And remove that fan from the heatsink and disconnect it from the motherboard fan header. It's getting nice and loose. All right, that came right off. And you can see in the heatsink, it's a cheap heatsink, and the dust is just caked in there, but it's effective. It does keep the processor as cool as possible. So this little bit of duster, it's very important that you clean the dust out of the fan. Use a brush or two to get the hard dust out, because the aerodynamics of the fan are very important in keeping it effective in terms of moving as much air as possible for the cooling of the processor and heatsink. So in order to get access to the heatsink itself, we have to remove the motherboard from the case. Now, this motherboard originally come from some Compaq. I don't remember exactly which one, but somebody had a problem with a Compaq and ended up giving it to me. And I just took it out of the original case, because the thing about the cases are that they're built let's get the motherboard out. That's what we're going to do. We're going to get the motherboard out. But I was saying that the cases are not built with ample space to cool as best or optimally the best, you know, you in other words, what I'm saying is the case that I put this motherboard in is larger than that Compaq case in which I took it from. All right, so I'm just gonna, go through and remove all the screws on the motherboard to the risers to the case. And it's been a while since I worked with this hardware, and I want to point out too that it's really important that you do the hardware work first, so you know exactly what you're working with. Because when you set a computer aside for a while, it could be a decade before you actually look at it again, as in my case. And what happens is you don't remember exactly what you were working with. So what you do is you take it apart and you clean it. And for your hardware, periodically, if you see that it's collecting a lot of dust, like I do have a dusty environment, I admit, and it this cleaning your hardware should be done periodically. Now, I'll admit, I don't like taking stuff apart as much as I used to, but it's still fun. It's still necessary. I just only do it when it's necessary. But keep in mind, we're going to be taking a lot of stuff apart on this channel in order to get at things, to get things done, and all that stuff. Okay. So now the motherboard is coming out of the case. Nice and easy. We're just looking at it from a different angle. Then I'm going to remove the case from my workbench for the time being, but the challenge is I didn't have anywhere to put the motherboard. So I had to carry that case with one hand and to the rest of my shop. All right, so we're going to remove the heat sink. That's what we're gonna do. All right, so it got a little tricky. Now you can see at the bottom corner, like it's tough to get a good shot and then get a good leverage too. So I had to sacrifice the shot to get my to pry it off. It was like, I didn't, it was a design that I couldn't really uh see clearly as to what to do. But eventually I just got in there, got it loose, and figured it all out. And what happened is you get your screwdriver in there a certain way, and it just pops right off, I guess, like that. And you can see the thermal paste is just like the. We're gonna clean out the heat sink and all that good stuff. Um, so I took it outside because there was so much dust. I brought the cleaner, and I brought. I also had a little brush to get in some of the hard caked out dust. See how that stuff is caked all up in there? You want to get in there and get that out, because the more dust you remove, the more effective that cooling device is, and you're making it just as good as new. This is very important to do if you're working with old computers. I cannot reiterate that enough. When I started this project, I was tempted to just start it as is, but no, you got to clean up. So we clean out the RAM slots too. So that's what I'm doing there with the little brush. There was a lot of caked on dust that I wanted to get off of the little resistors and such. And that's what we had to do. And we cleaned up any little bit of dust, any little bit of dust particles in preparation for cleaning the processor off. And the thing is, too, you want to, you know, preferably do this in an environment where, like, maybe like outside where it doesn't collect dust in your environment. Because what happens with dust is it gets in your air conditioner. Like I'm using an air conditioner right now. So now we're gonna get ready to clean the processor off and such. I had to get the alcohol, the rubbing alcohol. So we're gonna clean out the old thermal paste. So you're gonna wipe out the thermal paste off the heat sink. Check, make sure our video's okay. And we're gonna clean the processor. I didn't see fit to remove the processor because um there was just no need to. I wasn't replacing and removing or exchanging it or changing it. Um so the processor just stayed right where it was. It just had a little tiny area that we needed to clean off. And I used a Q-tip, a very hard Q-tip. You can get them on Amazon. I don't know. I don't have a. Maybe I could put a link later, but whatever. The important thing is though, to get all the old thermal paste off. Some of it's gonna want to go off to the side of that heat plate. You want to get that too. And this is very important, very crucial that you do this from time to time with old computers. And not well, what happens is the computer's been sitting for years. It's been used years ago, and the thermal paste. We don't know the shape of the thermal paste unless we pull that heat sink off the processor, clean it up, and apply new thermal paste. Then we know for sure that we have optimal cleaning and optimal cooling. So we're going to apply the new thermal paste for exactly that. So I have some art. So, what's that? MX4, Arctic MX4. Then we're gonna install the cooler. I struggled a little bit to get the cooler installed, but eventually it worked out. Basically, have to line it up to whereas everything clicks together. Try to use a screwdriver for leverage, and once you do, you get things to kind of snap into place. That ain't going nowhere now. And a couple of things you see on the table are adapters, an SSD, all the screws, the fan, all that. So we're going to start. We found that it's easy to add the CPU, fan, and the RAM right now to the motherboard while it's outside of the case. So in this instance, I just added like a 512 stick. As you can see, a close up is nice and clean. Capacitors are fairly good shape, what I could see. No major bulges or anything like that. Then we're going to add the fan, plug it into the main board, motherboard. These things are tiny, so take a little patience, pack your patience. When getting them in, don't force it. You could break it. These things are very delicate, and even more so with the newer computers. All right. So basically, what we're going to do is get our screws off the magnet pad and line them up and line up the fan on the heatsink and proceed forward with that. Um, it, it isn't very powerful, but it's a nice, durable, good working motherboard. I ran it, around the clock headless for a couple of years. A little bit of history on it too. I used to just run it to run Windows Server 2003, and to collect mail. We used in Thunderbird for my main Hotmail account, or as my control of my Hotmail account. Uh, Nowadays I use Outlook. It has a good archiving feature because I don't delete a thing, you know. Okay, so we're getting the screws and the fan into the heat sink. We're gonna just tighten them up as best as we can. I go corner to corner. Uh, Tighten them as reasonable as possible. Add a stick to RAM. Find out which is DIMM slot one, just because we for this we use just one stick of RAM. So I made sure that I put in that the first stick of RAM to the first DIMM slot. Then we're gonna add the motherboard to the case. So we're gonna start reassembling this assembly, if you know what I mean. So everything's nice and clean, nice and squeaky clean. We're gonna just go ahead and line them up and make sure that and and that's the reason why I installed the fan, the heat sink, and the RAM. Because if you were to put the motherboard in the case, first question is, what would you grab the motherboard by? You would have an awkward situation. So that worked out well that we put that together that way. And I would advise you to negotiate the situation as best as you can, depending on your circumstances. So right now, what we're doing is we're currently lining it up, making sure that the holes align for the screws to go in smoothly. And all the screws get magnetized for some reason. That's weird. but that's very handy and it helps out the situation. Okay. So essentially, we're just getting all the screws in. Um, and then eventually, we're going to start, wiring things up again. But we want to get all the screws in as best as we can, as accurately as you can. I put in, I remembered exactly where the screws were. Sorry, the screen got cut off at the top. But one thing I can say is like producing a video and then doing a project like this takes practice. And if I don't practice, which I didn't practice recently, it just makes things a little bit tougher. But we will be getting more practice on this subject matter because there's a lot of hardware that I still have yet to go through. So be sure check your subscription, make sure you stay subscribed to the channel and all that stuff. Um, and also the notification bell too. Make sure you hit that notification bell and you get notified when I put something out. I'm gonna try to get it out as consistently as possible, but like just to produce this video took days. It took 2 days. The first day I tore the computer down. The second day I'm putting the computer back together, and here it is, the third day, or is it the second day? Still, um, but this process takes a minute. It takes a little patience. We're just getting the final screws in on the motherboard, and we're just getting it ready to hook up the wires and such. So we got that one final screw in. Put it in reasonably tight. Don't over tighten it. You could do damage if you do. Notice I'm using a hand screwdriver. I could use the electric screwdriver, fancy, but we're gonna connect the wires now. Uh, First, I'm gonna start by connecting like the power switch, and I had a little difficulty reading the print on the board. Some of us are of age where the eyes don't work as good as they used to, and you might find yourself straining. Don't do that. Do as I did. Use the cell phone as a magnifying glass. The camera feature. Use the camera feature to zoom in. You got to get this part right because if you don't, your power switch will not work. Your reset switch will not work. Or you might have them cross. Your reset switch will be your power button, and your power button will be your reset switch. None of that. We didn't want that. And then we had a little light, but I think that light is busted. But we'll check on that. But I'm confident at this point that I got that hooked up. Hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Check your notification. Make sure you receive notifications. Hit the bell. Be sure to share the video. Click the like button. That's all important. Helps the algorithm. The whole idea behind this channel is if I have a technical project to do, I'll do it here. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I thank you all so much. Without you all, we are nothing, and it's just, data. So let's connect the CPU power. All right, so the first thing I'm doing is connecting the CPU power. It's a little 4-pin deal for this generation of ITX or whatever. ITX standard of the day. Then we're going to connect the motherboard power. Now, I kind of messed up. Like, I had wires where they shouldn't have been. Cable management is tough, and the cables that we are using are not user-friendly. Okay, so right there, I'm connecting I'm looking for a place to connect the USBs for the front ports, the front USB ports. I forget exactly where it went. So you had to kind of look and see where the pin is out and line it up with the pin out, so to speak. Pin out meaning missing pin. also too, some of the things that I'm going to be getting into is maybe getting some soldering. Um, I took out the CR2, the CMOS battery. The CR2, it's a CR2032 battery that you want to get. I like to buy them in packs. They're good to have and they're very handy. And I bet you I have a lot of them because I found a lot of good stuff that I thought I lost. So now I had a little issue with this particular design because I didn't know which side to put it in, and I, I even at this point don't know if I, fried the sea moss. But when everything started, the fans run. There was no beeping. There's a there's a Pico buzzer on the motherboard, but we're gonna add an IDE SSD. It's a mini IDE SSD that I bought years ago that I used in a laptop, and it worked pretty well. But as as you would know, you're limited by that IDE interface. And these cables, these ribbon cables, are not the most user friendly cables. So I had to kind of sit there and kind of think, how am I gonna get this cable in its place? You know, there's a primary IDE and a secondary IDE on this motherboard, plus a port for the floppy. I don't have a floppy for this computer. And also, too, what you can't really see in the video is that the notch on the plastic was missing. And I didn't know it was a weird ribbon cable. But I figured out that looking at the other cable, that where the ground or the red wire needs to be set, if you know what I mean. All right, so just get them cables lined up and in place and in preparation for getting the drives hooked up. And at one point I realized that I was missing the cable for this device too. So that's the SSD that I have. It has a jumper on it. It's set to master. Um, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up basically securing that into the bay with its assembly using one screw. The drive does not rotate. It does not need to be stable. Uh, it just needs to be in place. As a matter of fact, I could just like not screw it in place and it'd be fine. But the difficulty I had too with the hardware was the screws didn't all work. I had to find a screw that fit the socket. So essentially, what we do is just line it up as best we can, see if we can get it to stay put. Also, we want to see if it's lined up. Just make sure that we only could get one screw as a sacrifice because we were having a shortage of screws, as you will find in these hardware situations. Like there are screws. I tend to keep screws, but I don't remember exactly where I put them. I had a magnet for screws, but I gotta look for the magnet and all that good stuff. So what's happening now is I'm getting the other piece. There's an adapter of mini IDE to IDE that I had to use. I ordered that online for this project too. The one I have one other one, but it and in the past it failed, so I just saw best to order another one. So be patient with the delay. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on the way in, check the notification bell, and there we are. We found a screw. So that's some of the difficulty that you're going to encounter on some of these projects is finding a screw to add additional hardware than what you are dealing with than when you started the project, if you know what I mean. Okay. So a screw came out, having a little difficulty. So basically, we're gonna just put it in again, um, using like a little screwdriver with a magnetized head to it, so we don't lose the screw because it would be kind of not, it would be not cool to lose the screw at this point in time. But stay tuned on the channel as well because although we won't get to it in this video, but we're gonna try to run some Linux and probably XP Black Edition on it. But you guys tell me what you think I should run on this device. But we first have to get a video signal. I can't confirm a video signal yet because I gotta redo the capturing on the channel before I even attempt to do the other stuff that I'm gonna do with this computer. So stay tuned. So basically cutting the adapter out of the case, that the adapter for the mini IDE to IDE. That's what we're looking at right now. I'm just looking at the craftsmanship. It's okay. I've had worse. I've seen worse. Sorry for my head getting in the way, but sometimes you have to see things to make sure that they line up properly. And then we're going to attach the appropriate cables. And then we're going to add a Molex power cable to it. To ensure that we have what we need when we power it on. Put it in. One thing is the Molex connectors require a little force, so just give it a little force and you'll get it in. All right, so we're gonna be doing cables for the missed cables and the CD drive. We're gonna be adding those cables in and adding the drives in this part of the project. Okay. So essentially, we're gonna get our CD drives in the bays, but before I get the CD drives in, we're gonna work with these ribbon cables. These ribbon cables are not that friendly. They're actually very rigid in a way, but you have to be kind of careful with them too because you could tear them if you're not. But this is what we had to work with back in the day, and this is the hardware from like say 2000, early 2000 era, 2005 ish. So basically got that ribbon cable in place. And what the way this one is set up is I have the CD drives on one channel of IDE, and then I have another channel for the SSD installed. So it should be interesting. So stay tuned. All right, so I'm just struggling, and that's part of what it is. You're gonna have to struggle a little bit to get those cables in where they need to go. And I had it upside down actually, so I had to pull it right back out and then just go in from the top again. So you got to pay attention to what you're doing. Make sure you don't miss a step. Because if you do miss a step or miss a cable, your drive may not work. And that could be for a very simple reason, such as like your cable. So I'm working it from the top of the case, getting it in there. And the case we were working with is a Antec NSK 44 on 4400. Okay, so got that CD drive situated now we're going to get ready for the other CD drive. This has two CD drives, and I'm just going to keep the two CD drives with it. I think the CD drives, if they still work, would be cool to play with, you know? So, so so the angle is we're looking at from the top, basically screwing in the drives. Um, and you know what I tend to do is like I like to concentrate on the project I'm doing, and then I like to do the video and tell you guys about it a little bit later. That's what we do on this channel. How you guys like it? Tell me how you guys like it. I would really like the feedback if you guys are watching it, and also too, even if you're watching up to this point, thank you for being a hardcore Techtronics subscriber. And for those that haven't subscribed, if you're new to this, make sure you subscribe. We are in the process of growing this brand. All right, so you know, I'm basically hooking up this other second CD drive. These are CD rewrite drives with high speeds for today. 24 times I saw them on them. We're hooking up the Molex connector, making sure that is in snug and tight. Then we are hooking in the IDE connector with the ribbon cable. And the cool thing about this case, it has provisions for you know, the SATA too. But the motherboard itself has SATA connectors on it, but the SATA connectors don't work for some reason. Because I tried to use the SATA drive with this back in the day, because SATA was what was in style at the time. All right, so working these cables is like I said, they're not user friendly. I'm just taking my time, massaging them into place, getting them where I need them to go. This is not a cable that you would move every day. It's not a cable that you would, you know, have heavy movement on, I should say, too. So we want to make sure that we get everything lined up. And the cable halfway didn't want to go, but I knew I had the length, and I knew it in the length. And then when it twists, it takes away from the length a little bit. So eventually, you know, what we had to do is we had to get it lined up. But unfortunately, in the process, I knocked the adapter out of the SSD and had to struggle to get that in too. And that kind of thing can happen too, as you see here. So then my big head gets in the way with the GoPro. And you see my bald spot. I'm an old man. I'm halfway to 90. And at this point of the video, but I make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed, hit the notification bell. I really enjoy doing these type of videos. I think these are my favorite type of videos to do on the channel, and it shows. And I think you guys will see that. All right, so next thing is we're gonna add the Radeon 9250. It's a graphics card that I went crazy and purchased back in the day. It was an affordable card, good for doing office stuff, but you could play a few games on it too. I took the fan off of it because I had problems with the fan on that particular one, but it stays pretty cool in general. So we install that, find a screw to screw it to the case to ground it properly. Um, Basically, that's that. Next, we're going to connect the external cables and prepare to turn it on. That's all we're going to do in this video is turn it on, get fan spin up. But the cabling for the video portion that I wanted to do was not working, and I thought it wasn't working, but then what I realized too is that a lot of the cables, these modern day HDM like VGA to HDMI cables, don't pick up the BIOS signal for some reason. But the only thing that picks up the BIOS signal is uh, my start my Start Tech capture device that I use for this to capture the camera footage, but also it's going to capture the uh, the footage of when I tinker with the BIOS in order to get something loaded on it. Now that's the fun. If you don't have any video, no video equals no fun. That's kind of the situation I ran into with the wire. So, and this video got really long. It took me a long time to do. Um, so basically, what we're doing here is getting our cables together, getting ready to start this machine. What you're gonna see in the next few minutes is a fan spin up, fan light up, and that sort of thing. It's a very quiet design, very quiet, and what I want to do is maybe run something useful for it. Run something that I could use 24/7. So grab the keyboard, hook that up. These are USB keyboard, works fine with it. And a USB mouse. We had to get the USB mouse. All right, so we're gonna just do a test power up in this video, and we just want to see it power on. We didn't get any video signal. That's what you're seeing now. Is like I thought I could get a video signal while testing the power up too, and be able to switch it back and forth using this new wire that I got, but it didn't work out that way. And the reason why is I don't think the wire is set up to pick up the signal. So you see the fans are spinning, the and you see the little light down there. So but I can't get a video signal right now. Now the other computer that I have running, it got a video signal, but this device here, for some reason, I couldn't get a video signal at the time. I thought I did something wrong with the video, so I was troubleshooting. But also, too, you're going to find that it's hard. You're going to have a hard time getting the right device to convert all of the signals, BIOS signals and all, to HDMI as the challenge of doing this video. Um, so basically, let it run a minute. I couldn't do anything with it. I do want to point out too that the keyboard gave me the no lock, which is fine. But unfortunately, I couldn't get this to, give me a video signal with the hardware that I had. But stay tuned, because here's what I found. Um, I had a bunch of wires that I used, and I put them in a box. So I thought. It turned out that box was a suitcase. Now this box was lost because I thought I was looking for a box, not knowing that I was looking for a suitcase. So I found the suitcase full of wires, and it's here with me. So basically, at 6 a.m. troubleshooting the the video, I should have powered it off and hit the switch. But and that's another thing too, when you disconnect any wires in the computer or anything like that, just be sure to make sure you hit the switch, disconnect the power, and hit the power button so that you avoid anything crazy happening. But we got up and we got a running machine. We got some hardware running. Check the CD drives, make sure they work, more or less. But we won't know for sure until we run CDs in them. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some more diagnostic work on this PC, and using the USB stick that I created in a video around this video. So Make sure you stay tuned to the channel. I'm gonna power this device off for now. Disconnect the power and lay that aside. And I was troubleshooting what I thought was the video problem, but I think it was a wire problem. So stay tuned. So I took out the video card, and then I'm gonna run it without the video card, I guess. So I took that Radeon 9250 out. I'm sure it worked last time. So, but I ran into this issue too with capturing video. Was you know, the same thing. So, just to run a quick test and see if I could get a video signal, which I didn't. And that will be pretty much what we got to say about this. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. The whole idea behind this channel is if I have a technical project to do, I'll share it here, share it with a friend. Like the video if you like and enjoyed it. If you like this form of content, be sure to subscribe and share and like. Support is greatly appreciated. I appreciate you being here with me. Without you guys, we are nothing. So be sure to visit my link tree for all kinds of stuff, Tech Tinktronics.